Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the last weekend of the Leaders Summit. Thank you everybody for all of your attention and engagement and energy around all things slow food. Felix and myself are here to moderate the COVID Roundtable. I know we have some other chapter leaders here who will have so much to say about this past couple of years and how it's impacted us. I'm going to be sharing my screen and doing the tech for this session, and Felix will be guiding the discussion as we get started here. So I am going to ask everyone to put your name and what chapter you're affiliated with in the chat so we can get to know each other a little bit. Felix, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Hello, everyone. I'm Felix. I am the Network Engagement Director for another, I think, 48 hours, maybe 72 hours. I'm unfortunately, I'm sad to go. But right now I am calling in from actually Toronto, Ontario, because I brought my mother up to see her siblings for Chinese New Year coming up. And I believe this is the lands of the Ojibwe, the Chippewa, and the Mississauga. It's a little different for me up here, and it's a little later. Oh my gosh, I forgot about East Coast time. So hello, everyone. So thanks for coming. Like Mara has said, as everyone's kind of like putting in the chat where they're calling in from and what chapter they're with. This is supposed to be just like an open conversation. And all we wanted to do in the beginning, and I'll try to go through it quickly enough, is we want to get some structure so that we can have the conversation. And we thought it might be helpful for me to kind of tell the story from my end, because essentially my whole career with slow food is the career of slow food and COVID. I was brought on about 2 weeks before pandemic really hit. I went to the office 2 times. And on the 3rd week, I was like, Anna, I don't think we should go to the office anymore. This thing looks serious, you know? And that was it. And then we were just in COVID, like full blown. And so we want to kind of just talk about, you know, and Anna did an amazing job talking about it too, about in the State of the Snail, about from this perspective that I was privileged to hold, to be able to work with chapters across the country, what kind of happened from our end. That's going to be kind of like a sad-ish story, but there's also a lot of positives in there too, like the creativity and the community that kind of sprung up. And so if I do a quick babbling intro, what we're kind of going to do is kind of have chances for us to use a Jamboard twice. And if you haven't Jamboard yet, it's essentially a way to put like sticky notes on a board virtually. And the 2 times with Jamboard will be one time kind of focusing, acknowledging challenges, acknowledging stress, acknowledging the issues at hand that kind of showed up during COVID. And the second Jamboard we're going to do is about looking forward and like, or not even forward sometimes, like just recognizing the creativity that has happened during COVID and the community that has like strengthened during COVID, and maybe a little bit looking forward and being some constructive sharing about where should we go from here kind of thing. So those would be kind of the 2 beats. And sorry, let me close my door real quick, because when my relatives get together, it gets kind of loud. So it's like, I'm so happy my mom has a chance to be with them, but like they get really excited. So quick framing. Yeah, when COVID hit for slow food, I think a lot of you who've been around slow food realize that it might actually have been a convenient time to like kind of reassess like the goals, the vision, the approach, the perspective of slow food anyway. And I think it actually in the beginning had a really big, from my perspective, a big moment of like fear and like, what is this pandemic? But of like, Anna led us into this like really creative experimental stage about like, how are we going to keep people talking? How are we going to keep people together? I know folks won't be able to go to the farmer's market, or they won't be able to see each other. So how can we make sure that people see each other again and still, you know? And that was where Giselle and Anna birthed like Slow Food Live, you know, and brought in experts and brought in like forums and panels, which was really fun. We started using Zoom. I think we kind of learned Zoom, together as like a network. Um, and one of the things I really enjoyed seeing there was that it actually solved some issues I heard from like governors and some chapter leaders who were like, I don't often get to go to my sister chapters nearby, their meetings, or governors were like, it's real tough to go to a chapter meeting. But all of a sudden with Zoom, it got kind of easier. And that was kind of nice, and that, and I will always be like in awe of how creative and how gritty our leaders can be in that moment. But at the same time, I mean, we're still in it. I was just telling Mara that like in Toronto here, they're 100% lockdown. Like things are not open. Like, you can get takeout, but you're not going anywhere, and you will get a ticket if you walk on the street for no reason, So like this thing is still here and it's 2 years later. So after like the quick initial, like, wow, like we're going to do this, we're going to get through this, as we all know, chapters started folding, and that's hard to see, right? That's really hard to see, because I think that we can all see that like some of the most exciting parts of slow food is being in the community, literally sharing food, sharing time, sharing space. And I think that got really, really tough on us as a real community centered nonprofit. So I think that in COVID, just kind of share numbers, um, there were about 147 chapters reported to me around the country. Right now, we have 114 listed as chapters around. I would say from 2 years of doing annual reports and trying to talk to every chapter possible, I would say there is about 100, but then like people who are like, truly active doing whatever they're doing, I think it's about 80 of us, 80 chapters plus the national teams around, which is a really amazing number. I mean, like through it all, um, people are still here and chapters are still forming. I mean, Caroline's here, Baltimore reformed, Houston reformed, 4 or 5 brand new chapters. Southeast Missouri came out. But with that said, it is tough. Like it's been a tough year. And one thing we want to dive into more detail later, and I want to stop talking and we can start jamming a little bit about sharing our experiences, that I want to just kind of set the stage for is that whenever I talk to a chapter leader about COVID, the tone is always apologetic. And I want to give ourselves a moment. I want to give every time I talk to a chapter leader, and I want to set that tone here. Apologetic for what is what I want to always say, because you're talking to me and you're telling me all these things that you're doing and that you're worried about, and like that's amazing, So we'll get into this a little more later. Maybe we'll dissect this a little more, but I want to give ourselves in this group at least, and hopefully we can carry it out to the rest of the network, a moment to give ourselves the permission to relax and to be like, it's amazing that we're here we're doing a leader summit. We're sharing with like national leaders across the country, that your chapter is doing what they're doing. Shirley's here from Vegas. Vegas is a new chapter that formed during COVID, So and even if your chapter didn't do the XYZ events that you did before, or a chapter didn't do the XYZ whatever that you did pre-COVID, you're still here. And you're still envisioning a future where we can make change during a time where the economy is going haywire, our world is going haywire. Just want to give ourselves a moment to say, we don't have to be apologetic, right? But we can start being like supportive of each other and creative and that kind of thing. So I kind of want to set the stage for that. So with that said, really quickly, I think our first kind of jam, unless Mara and Dan, do you want to do anything in intro wise before we start jamming about what has been so tough and challenging for chapter leaders?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have Dan share her screen so I can do tech and put questions into the Jamboard as they come in, if folks just want to talk. That way you guys don't have to worry about typing away, and it can be more conversational as we intended. So yeah, feel free to put all of your questions or your comments into the chat for the Jamboard. And yeah, you can go to the next couple slides there, Dan. Thank you. This quote really spoke to me as I was thinking about this session from the late great Bell Hooks. The challenge these days is to be somewhere, to belong to some particular place, to invest in oneself in it and draw strength and courage from it, and to dwell in a community. So just being together and doing things is a challenge. And I think we can all relate to that. And like Felix said, it's a miracle that we're here at all. And I feel like I've heard Carlo Petrini say that at past Terra Madres. It was back, in 2014, I think. I remember Carlo saying at that Terra Madre, it's a miracle this happens at all. It's a miracle that any of the slow food movement happens at all. And I think it's because we have decided to invest ourselves in this community. And this is another way to do that, talking about, all of these challenges that we're having together. We're continuing to invest in our community in a different way. So I just wanted to put that quote there that really spoke to me as I thought about what we're all going through in our various chapters. Dan, you can go to the next slide. Thank you.
My internet's moving a little bit slow, so
Okay.
I'm trying to go to the next slide, but I see it's maybe not coming up for you all. Is it there now?
It is.
Okay, great.
Okay. And Felix sort of went over these points too, but just how, the roles of the office, how we are trying to pivot, and how Trovel's chapters struggled, but also there's a lot of pivoting that happened that was very helpful. So it's kind of helpful to hear each other's stories, I think. And then there were lots of challenges, of course. So the next slide is the Jamboard slide. And I'm going to put the link in the chat for those who would like to put them directly in the Jamboard. But if you want to just unmute yourselves and talk, that's awesome as well. We want to encourage engagement.
Yeah, so the Jamboard is a good visual that we can all see these ideas, but we just want to open it up. We'd love to hear from you. How was COVID for you all? Pierre, I see you unmuted. I see you ready.
What's that?
I see you unmuted. I see you ready to talk.
Yes, I'm much more of a speaker than a typer, so I'm gonna speak. For all of us, COVID has been tough, and I think Felix, you touched on it. There's a lot of positives and negatives and about it, but I think we all learned how to survive through this, and I think there's positives and negatives about Zoom. We lose that personal contact and being there together, but it enabled us to reach out further to a broader audience. And I just think if we learn in the future how to take this mixture to continue using Zoom, but also have the personal contact. I know as a governor, it allowed me to, reach out to other people that, I couldn't normally go see because they're, 8 hours away. So there was a lot of positives that came out of this. I'm still missing, having gatherings. I still am kind of in lockdown on here upstate New York, but that's kind of, I think we all did the best we could to make the best of it that we could.
Thanks, Pierre. Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the things that we can look at being a somewhat of a positive outcome. I think we all have a little bit of Zoom fatigue at this point, but man, it really does help us connect with people when we really just can't around a table. So you're right, if we can take this as a positive coming out of COVID. I like that we're starting with a positive. Thanks, Pierre.
But it's also finding that healthy mix of being able to, be comfortable enough to gather in person. I think we need to find that healthy mix to move forward.
Thanks, Pierre. I'm sure we all share that similar thing about missing each other. Yeah, I definitely get that. Does anyone else have anything to share about that too? Like how this directly affected just your role as a leader in trying to organize folks for slow food? Hey, Shirley.
Hey,
Hey.
geez, there's so many things that happened to us. We started our chapter right at the time that COVID hit the country, and didn't even think too much about it. We just, Zoom came naturally. I mean, things were starting to happen in the country that we didn't even know or realize that it was going to affect us as much as it did, because in the beginning nobody really even knew what was going to happen, what these things were going to look like. But we actually had a really positive experience with COVID, and I know that's strange to say, but we don't know any other way right now. We had very few people-to-people get-togethers, very few. You could probably count them on one hand. We were able to have a couple of gatherings when it looked like COVID was starting to slow down and restaurants started to open and people were able to get out. So we did have a couple of things, but in the meantime, we were able to do all of the work that it takes to open a chapter, or to start a chapter rather, online. And we were, there is so much information on Slow Food USA and so much guidance from the people that worked with us. It was really enjoyable. We had a good time. We only started out with 4 people, and we just brought friends in, and people started hearing about us, and it just grew almost organically. It just happened. It was really a good thing for us. We did not miss a meeting, did not miss a beat. We had our meetings as we scheduled them, and we tried to get involved in everything that COVID USA was doing. Not everything, but we tried. And we really enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed the Zoom. We've enjoyed, I mean, we can't wait to get together and do things as a chapter, person to person. But we've had fundraisers. We've had, like I say, we've had our meetings every single month. Yeah, it's worked out well for us. Very enthusiastic about it, but can't wait for the time that we can get together and sit together. Yeah.
I love how positive this group is. Like, yeah, like we're already talking about hopeful things. So I'm gonna go with that flow and not say we don't have to just talk about the challenges now. We can definitely talk about any of the success and positives too at the same time. There's no reason we have to bisect it. But I also don't want to dissuade anyone from just venting and being like, this is real tough for me, y'all. I want to share that. Because this is a safe space, right? We're all people just trying to make this thing happen. With that said, I'm looking at the Jamboard, and I'm finding some themes here, it seems like, and please riff off this as you feel fit. But like a lot of people are saying, yeah, it's hard to like draw people in when, you lose that charisma of dinners together. You lose that charisma of being in a community around the table. It's hard to bring people in. It sounds like when things get canceled all the time. That makes sense. Like, anyone else share that? And maybe even found some ways to keep people engaged despite?
Well, I know, as a co-governor for up here in New York State, and being involved with Slow Food East End, I mean, they did a remarkable job of keeping people engaged, and they were very creative about how they went about it. They were able to support restaurants who were struggling at the time. They brought in experts and did cooking demonstrations online, and they would have 80 people who would join these things. And they also started something called Flour Power, where they the community bakes bread. They came up with a recipe from one of the board members who was a baker, he was a professional bread baker, and he came up with a fairly simple recipe. They did a whole demonstration about it, and they bake 4 loaves, and 2 loaves the person gets to keep, and then they donate it, and they have a drop-off point, and they take it to the food pantry. So they really were very smart about how to engage people and help the community. And their little slogan is, it's the yeast that they can do. So anyway, that was one way that they kept the community engaged.
I love that. I know that for me, one thing I really enjoyed talking to leaders about is that this moment of pause. Like, I see one of the jam boards saying that, like, is hard because we can't really do the things that Slow Food was known for to motivate our volunteers and leaders. But one thing I so enjoyed this last year and more is because the world was ready, maybe we were more ready, that Slow Food could really dive into his commitment to equity and justice. And as we all know, that doesn't necessarily mean always going out and doing events and doing marches, even though it's part of it, right? And what a lot of talks I was privileged to be part of was like people being like, we got to figure out what's going on, what it means for us, our leaders to get comfortable with. And that just meant like talking, like a lot of leaders and a lot of boards just being like, we just got to talk about this more and like understand what this means to me. And so like, it kind of like became a time of introspection and like building relationships with each other. Sometimes that was harder. Like I've definitely heard some chapters being that was harder for a lot of chapters than easier. But like, sometimes it was really awesome to see, like, we're not known. I would hazard opinion to say that Slow Food, we're not really known for that. Maybe we were once, but we're not known for that yet. But now my experience of Slow Food has been like a real experience of like wrestling with like justice and what that means for us, and what that means on boards, on chapters, and how our chapters work in communities. And that's something I don't know would have happened if it wasn't for COVID, and was like kind of psyched about. But I also am really wary of it, because I hope we're able to take the next step, and I don't know what that means, because again, it's a tough year. There could be tough conversations, and it's a tough year for folks anyway. I don't know, like, how do people have any experience of that? Like, not just equity and justice, but like keeping their board together and inspired.
Can I talk a little bit about the equity and justice piece just for a second?
Yeah.
Because for like Slow Food Philly, admittedly, we dropped off the map for 18 months. And so we just really weren't keeping up. And I think it was just because of the board members and where they were all at. And so I kind of feel like I've missed out and all that stuff. So is there some way to kind of, for us that are trying to restart up, to get some support, or saying, hey, we've got, and maybe it's there and I just haven't found it, or I haven't looked for it yet. But I think that there are going to be some groups that are going to be starting up again that are going to be saying, we were left behind.
And
Because we were
Karen,
involved with our kids or our families, our elderly, like I went back to Minnesota. I left Philly and went back to Minnesota for 9 months to take care of my mom. So, so just kind of a side note.
that's really helpful, Karen. I'm curious if you're specifically asking about like all of the development that happened around EIJ. You would like to be like brought back up to speed on that, and just general slow food happenings. It sounds like where we are now. That's good. I mean, have you found that attending some of the Leaders Summit sessions have gotten you up to speed a little bit?
A little bit, yeah, which is good, but yet I'm like, or there'll be somebody will say a term and I'll be like, okay, I need to go look that up. What does that mean? I think it's good, but I just, like I said, just an asterisk, be cognitive that some of us are slower learners.
Oh, that's no problem. This is exactly the kind of thing we need to hear. I really appreciate you bringing that up. It's consider it heard, and I will definitely be passing that on to the rest of the staff.
Absolutely. I think that I think we're all, like, when we say we're all trying to figure it out, I do not want, like, at all exempt the national office. Like, we have a lot to figure out how to do this. And I don't know. I want to know if Dan, like my colleague Dan here, because I'm the outgoing. But one thing I want to say is that Dan, very amazingly, was brought on as the EIJ kind of like strategist for us. And the fact that Dan's probably going to be the one who takes up what I leave behind, merging the network of the EIJ focus, is going to be amazing. And I think you're right, Karen, not just because, some people are like, I've been away, but we need to meet people where they're at. And I definitely hear that. And I think, when Dan's around and back, we can talk about it a little more. You're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to keep my camera off so that I can keep broadcasting through my spotty internet challenges. But what I'll say is, I'm hoping we can even sort of reshape that, the way that you just framed that. Karen, to me, nobody is behind. Nobody is moving too slow. We're all just at different points along this journey. And especially when it comes to EIJ, there's a lot to learn, just language wise, vocabulary wise, right? When we talk about issues of race and ethnicity, and we talk about gender issues, these are vocabulary and concepts that are very much actively forming right now within communities, within the academic space. And so, to be patient with ourselves, I think, is really important. And what we're really trying to encourage, I think, this year as a national office is we are a food organization. We are meant to be reconnecting ourselves to each other and to the land and Mother Nature have seasons. So chapters 2 have seasons. And if you all needed to take a minute to do whatever or to not do, that is absolutely okay. Rest and relaxation are equal parts of resistance, just as much as community organizing and being productive. And I think one thing national office can do a better job of is creating those connections and those correlations, and really just embodying more of what it means to be slow. Can we give ourselves, extend to ourselves patience and grace while we learn new terms, while we build that common language together? Certainly I'm happy, Mara, Felix, and I will certainly be taking this back to the rest of our staff and figuring out how we can create more access points for folks who maybe do feel like they've been more in that dormant season, and how we can help you emerge. And I'm here personally as EIJ strategist to support chapters in strategic planning, that really sorts, strategic planning, visioning, goal setting. Those are all things that I'm happy to meet with our chapter leaders about and make sure that you all are getting off on a foot of and feeling empowered, right, and reconnected. So how do we get there? We're definitely, I think, committed to that. And yeah, thank you for saying that and sharing that, because I think maybe more leaders will resonate with that. And I'm happy that we can acknowledge that we need to create more of those access points for you all.
Thanks, Dan. And Willow also put a great thing in the chat saying, you know, it's truthfulness, what you said. We cannot grow as a movement. We pretend to know what we're talking about. So thank you. I think that's great. And it's not just about learning phrases, but understanding the history, impetus behind the work. I totally agree. I think that I also want to hear from other folks too who haven't shared yet about, you know, what this year has meant to them. And again, it doesn't have to be just about, you know, the losses. It can be about, like Shirley shared, like the creativity and the positivity, and also just the event. If you want to be like, yo, this year was just freaking hard. And I just want to say that to a group of people who understands that this is your forum. Hi, Caroline.
Hey, I want to say to Karen, baby steps. Don't be so hard on yourself. It'll come, and we're all got our own pace. But it has to come. I think each chapter has to find out what they want. And for me, trying to figure out and put the team together, I really, really wanted to have a Black presence on my board. So I went through so many people to try to get somebody, and I found a good friend of mine, and I'm very excited that we're planning a Juneteenth event in Baltimore, and we're both really jazzed about it. We found a organization that we're going to give some money to for our Juneteenth event after that, for mothers who have lost children to gun violence. And so I'm very excited about that. But again, it's like, you just have to figure out, like, what are the problems of your city? What do you want to address, and how do you want to go about doing it? And we want to do it in an educational way, in putting together workshops, just explaining what Juneteenth is. We're tying our book discussion. There's a book on Juneteenth that we're going to be reading in conjunction. And that was a great idea that I learned from Dan, who is very, very supportive in helping us to really get back on the ground. So it's exciting, but it's really it's just a small group of people, and I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to give it a go.
Caroline, I love that you're giving your chapter 6 months to get there. You know, like you have this target that's, 6 months away, and you're going to get there with your little baby steps. I mean, that's right. Taking permission to relax a little bit, right? As Felix said at the beginning, it's good to take that time pressure off a little bit, but have a target that seems attainable. I'm really excited to see how that Juneteenth celebration ends up coming together. It'll be fun to watch your progress.
We're going to be cooking from Jubilee Cookbook as well. And Jessica Harris is going to be speaking in Baltimore in February. So we're very excited. And she actually moved to the area. I'm going to try to sabotage her and try to ambush her, excuse me, I misspoke. I don't know, she's big time now. I don't know if she'll, be involved with us, but we do want to get, and I have a rapper too that I'm going to have for the entertainment.
Thanks, Caroline. That was really inspirational. Yeah, I want to see if anyone else who hasn't shared yet too, just kind of like moving, I don't want to close the door to any discussion we had about sharing challenges and all that, but I know what I'm really interested in, because this group is so creative and so forward thinking too, is that I understand I do understand that it's not as easy as just saying, oh, we can just relax, because we should, because, just like finding equity and justice in the world, you never get there, right? So good, clean, and fair food for all, we're probably never going to get there. It's not going to become a utopia anytime soon, but we can still move forward. But like we have to realize it is an ultra marathon, right? So we can't relax. But I understand as a chapter leader, that's not exactly like the answer to everything, right? Because like even though we do relax, when I'm sitting on the jam board is that, but we're having a hard time engaging folks. Maybe like we're having a hard time engaging other leaders, recruiting for our board. I'm seeing inspiring volunteers. Has anyone like felt that and have been thinking around this? Sounds like Flower Power from Pierre was an amazing program that East End came up with. Is there anything else to share from folks out there that they found a groove within COVID, even though like we can relax, but we can't not inspire, right?
Maybe Dan, we can scroll to the opportunities Jamboard. Thank you. We can start putting some, does that make
Yeah,
sense,
that'd be great.
Felix? Put some
Totally
of the,
makes sense. Because I can share from national side so far that I know one big thing that Anna's taking the lead on, and I think Dan and Mara are gonna like really really take the next level, is that like we need to reframe our narrative. Because I think one of the worries I've had for the past year is that the national, we're not exactly leading by example all the time, in the sense of like, it is valuable time. It is work for Caroline to take 6 months, you know, for DFW to do what she needs to do with her board, for DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, just to be having time for their board to discuss their relationship to each other and their relationship to justice. That's work. That's progress. That's the work of slow food, and we should be proud of it. It's a success, rather than lamenting the fact that we didn't get to do our fundraiser, even though we do need funds, right? We do need funds. We wanted funds to do what we had to do. But I think that's an opportunity there to reframe what it means to do slow food work, what it means to fight for a world of good, clean, and fair food. You know, what do folks think of that? Because I don't run a chapter, so I don't know if that's true. Hi, Shirley.
Hello again. I just, want to tell you that we had challenges, and we had pressures in trying to start a chapter totally online. But what we did is we also took the time to take advantage of opportunities that were in slow food, to learn about slow food, because we knew very little about slow food. So we took advantage of all the different programs that were available to us, to the movies, the Gather movie, the information about Bristol Bay, about slow fish, and we just tried to learn as much as we could by taking advantage of everything that Slow Food USA had to offer that was virtual. Even the book club that Felix had was virtual. So it was, you just kind of have to find the things that you can do. And like I say, there was a lot of information online that we could use to teach ourselves what slow food was about.
I've been getting a couple questions about how to access the second Jamboard. And if you go to the top of the slide area in the Jamboard, you see it, there's a slideshow that says 1/2, and then you can actually toggle to the right and it takes you to the second Jamboard 2/2. Thank you, Dan.
My sticky note isn't working, the feature on the second page.
Oh,
Same here.
So as we figure out Jamboard functionality, I will offer something else too about us in COVID. What has been said to me a couple times, are we in a crisis? With chapters like leaving, with chapters having to close. I will offer my humble opinion, but it's literally just my opinion, and I would say no. I would say that is like Dan has said, there's seasons, and we're in a tough season right now. So is it natural that something sunset for now? Yes, I would say absolutely yes, is natural, right? And there will be a season where we grow again, and I don't know when that's going to come. So one, are we in a crisis? My humble opinion would be like no. But what does that mean for those of us who are not sunsetting yet? And I would say there is one opportunity that's really amazing in slow food. I was just talking to Mara about it earlier today to kind of throw out there that when we're talking about equity and justice, when we're talking about, oh, we're losing that inspiration points. One thing that was so inspiring for me that like I will always take from my experience of slow food is that there's leaders from across the country doing this stuff in Vegas, in New York, in Baltimore, in Florida, in California, in everywhere, in the Tetons, and that was so inspirational to me. And I would wager a guess that's inspirational to a lot of folks, So what does that mean to me? Like, I think for a minute, because of this like fundraising atmosphere that nonprofits in, we try to like blowfish a little bit and be like, we're so big, like we're really big, like really like massive. And we are. I mean, we have thousands of members and we have so many volunteer leaders. Like I said, 80 to 100 chapters across the country. That is big. But as chapters are shutting down, I just said we have about 80 chapters, right? Right now, they're like active and communicating, and they're on Facebook and they're on newsletters. Then if you say 80, you can know 80 folks. Like I can actually know 80 people. And if you do that, you can actually know someone from every chapter in slow food. I think it's pretty amazing. And then if you break it down per region, right now we have 5 regions. I wager a guess. I'm not going to be around for it, but I wager a guess we might have more than 5. Because right now there's like Rocky Mountain Southwest is one big region. We can at least split that up, right? So if you take it per region though, divided by 5, if we're talking about 17 to 20 chapters, that's not quite right math, per region, you can definitely know 17 people actually pretty well, right? And so like, I just want to throw out there that we have this opportunity this year, to know each other as volunteer leaders really well, as friends, as people, their kids, that they have kids, that they know who's their partner. And that has been so inspirational to me. I've never met Pierre, but I've talked to Pierre like 20 times. I feel like I kind of know him. I want to visit Pierre's farm, And so like, I found it so inspirational to be part of this network. And I would try to say, maybe as a national office, we're gonna try to curate these opportunities for us to know each other. And maybe that's a replacement for some of that inspiration. Hey, Caroline.
Okay, I would like to say to Karen in Philly, so I used to in another life be a political organizer. And the way to get things done is to form coalitions, okay? So I challenge you, if you would like to, let's do an event together. Philly's not that far from Baltimore. It's just a stone's throw away on the MARC train. And we've got lots of ideas. We got a lot of, like we could do a field trip. I know that really nice cheese shop and, we could go the Incline. I mean, there's so many things we could do.
Nope, I already noted that I was going to contact you after this call, Caroline.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. But it's been inspired, and the summit it's been really fun to see people from all over the United States. And that has just made me so jazzed. I cannot tell you. It's just so, the slow fish was amazing. Everything, just learning so much of all these different things we could do.
That's awesome, Caroline. And you took the words right out of my mouth. Dan and I were talking earlier about there's this need and desire that's been out there in the network for a long time to have sister chapters, or chapters that make a commitment to each other to connect and do partnered events. And, why not? Why not just, I feel like this opportunity, it's an opportunity right now with the network at the size that it's at to do that pretty easily. And I think a lot of chapters can connect with each other with very little trouble. I mean, dang, we got Zoom now. That's one way that we can connect in an easy way. But you're right. Even if you're somewhat close within your region, you can definitely collaborate in person. That's wonderful. Thanks for reminding me about sister chapters. Dan, did you want to talk about that since we talked about that earlier at all?
Yeah, one thing that I hear quite a bit in my EIJ check-ins. So if you haven't already, I'm always available to, I'm just calling them very generally EIJ check-ins. It was originally meant to be a follow-up to some of those joy and justice action steps that you all submitted back in 2020. But really, I'm here to support any chapter around conversations of EIJ and beyond as I step into this new sort of hybrid EIJ network engagement role. So just kind of a PSA there. But what I'm hearing in a lot of those conversations that I'm having with chapter leaders is, what are other chapters doing around EIJ? And so I was thinking, we should have some EIJ buddies where chapters who are maybe sort of have a lot to learn from each other across this, spectrum of, or continuum rather, of what EIJ can look like and how we can more deeply embody it. And so that had been kind of circulating of, maybe we have EIJ buddies. And the more we aim to have EIJ not be something that, we do every Thursday, but that is embedded in everything we do every day, it seems more fitting to have maybe these sister chapters where EIJ is certainly a piece and maybe the centerpiece or leading values for these types of interactions between chapter to chapter. And so, sister chapters, I think, will be the best of all of that, of how do we get to together to discuss things like general strategic planning and maybe, succession within our chapters. How do we get together to exchange ideas about EIJ and how we're living those values? I think it's exciting. And I think it's not only a logical, but a much needed next step when we think about how we better mobilize and connect our network. I think a lot of times it's not that something isn't being done. I think it's just that we lack the connections a lot of times between being able to see all the different people and how we may collaborate. We don't have a leader summit all year where the Carolines and the Karens get on and get inspired by one another and decide that they're going to meet offline and make something happen cross-regionally or across those different chapters, right? But there can certainly be more of those opportunities throughout the year. So I think if we national office can take the lead on trying to set up some of these sister relationships between chapters, we'll, have our network be and maybe reflect and be better articulated, number one, but reflect more of the webbed nature of our network. We're not meant to have I think we're getting to a point of decentralizing our power and, thinking about shared leadership models and what they might look like for our leaders. And, when we have those connections, those mycelial connections, when we can better iterate the web of our network, then we all can do what we do a little bit better and with more support and more whole understanding of the network and all that we're trying to achieve. So I don't know if while I'm having this conversation, I'm thinking of like mushroom mycelia, I'm thinking of like a spider's web, I'm thinking about all the different systems within nature that we can learn from when we think about organizing ourselves within this network.
Hey, Dan, I was recently invited by the DC chapter to attend their board meeting. So that was really great to see how they operated. And I was able to ask questions because they knew that we were, a new chapter reforming. So that was really nice. They reached out to me and I don't know, they saw our newsletter and then they invited me. So that was cool. And anyone can reach out to me. We have our monthly planning meetings. We can, we only meet for 1 hour. I don't like long meetings, but anyone reach out to me and you can join us. No problem. Yeah, we don't have any secrets.
I love that. And I love the, willingness to just, I think sometimes we come from a place of wanting to have it together, right? Wanting to have ourselves together, wanting to have our chapter together before we do outreach, before we ask questions or start exploring something new. And there's no perfect place to arrive, right? Like there's perfectionism is actually a characteristic of white supremacy culture. So how do we begin to peel that epistemology, that way of knowing, away from what we're doing as leaders within this network? So it's not about being perfect, and there isn't even one right way. There's just a way forward that involves us working together and really committing to learning. I think that's one thing I've really heard from you, Shirley, is you all, when starting your chapter, really leaned into all those learning opportunities that Slow Food USA had to offer. And that's really what this is all about in general. All we're doing is learning and exploring and researching, and then finding a way to organize that information in a way that helps us move forward towards this collective social change vision. And, it may be difficult to, I think Felix put it well at the beginning of the session with, we're not going to solve these issues. We're not going to arrive at a utopia where everybody has good, clean, and fair food for all, at least not in this lifetime. But there's going to be different, the nature of the work remains the same, but the and the values remain the same. But there's something about what we're in pursuit of, and perhaps maybe one day we do achieve the good piece, we do achieve the clean piece, we do achieve the fair piece, and it comes together in a series like that, or in layers. It's, we don't arrive at a perfect moment. So really what I'm trying to say is I've gotten a little bit away from my point, but we have so much to learn. I think a lot of times you all as chapter leaders look to national office for those opportunities to learn. Look sideways, look to the chapter that's close to you, look to a leader in your community who is doing things in an inspiring way. We can be looking in all directions for opportunities to learn. And let's start to break down those myths that there is only one right way of doing something. There's many, many ways. Just as there are many ways of knowing and learning, there are many different ways to organize a network and get things done together. So I encourage us to be really, really open. And maybe Mara and Felix, we add a question to our feedback survey for the end of the whole summit for chapter leaders to see if they're interested in signing up to become a sister chapter. That would be really nice for us to be collecting those data points as we leave this season, the summit season, behind us and go into this next phase.
I will put a PSA out there too, that we have Mara here who has been a governor, Pierre who has been a governor. We just passed the regional we have this re-edit of our national statutes that kind of redescribes some positions. And one of the positions it redescribes is governor, now being called regional counselor, right? Because we need to bring some more vision and detail to this role. But what I can offer, like one of those roles is this, what we're talking about. If you feel like you have a will and a mind and a want to be like a weaver on the regional level, to weave around chapters and regional level, that's one of the things we want the regional counselors to own, because sometimes it is, like I see in the chat, people are like, is there a way to sign up for like another chapter's social media, stuff like that? Not right now, we should, but these regional counselors are folks that are kind of have that mind of how can I weave my chapters in my region together. So just a PSA that if you want to be a regional counselor, we're looking for you. We are looking for you. So please, you can just email Mara, email Dan. Like we're looking for folks who have that will and mind and talent to want to connect folks in their region.
Great. And as we are getting to the end of this session here, I just put the survey link in the chat so that you can provide us with feedback about this and add any other questions that you have about upcoming slow food things. Anything you want us to know about, you can do that in that survey. And as Dan alluded to, we are going to have a general survey for the whole Leader Summit that's going to go out at the beginning of the week. And I think there'll be details there about the roundtable as well, or sorry, about the national statute. But yes, Felix, I agree. Any other feedback from governors like Pierre or any other governors on this call about this process or about engaging with other chapters is really helpful.
Well, first, I want to say I'm also impressed with this conversation. We're like, let's have a COVID roundtable, and all everyone want to talk about is how great they're doing, which you're doing great, and like wanting to just like the spirit of folks here is so great. I also want to throw out that tomorrow, our last session called Stepping Forward Together. I know.
Did anyone else lose Felix?
Yeah, Felix, so sorry, but you are muted somehow. I can pick up there. We do have 2 final sessions tomorrow. One is the slow beans. We're starting slow beans, another slow, and we're going to hear from Slow Food Italy at that call, and that some new organizers of slow beans here in the US. And then for the last session, as Felix was just getting ready to mention, it's called Stepping Forward Together. And so we're going to try and talk about each of the departments of the national office. I'll talk about our programming goals. Dan's going to talk about network goals and EIJ goals. The marketing and communications department is going to talk about their goals for getting out the stories of slow food, et cetera, et cetera. And so it'd be really great. We're hoping for a really lively sharing and just a nice ending to this whole crazy 2 weeks that we've had together.
Hey, Mara,
Yeah.
Are we able to see the sessions that we couldn't attend? So you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is a link to, if you have your Slow Food USA email address, that's the only way you can access this folder that's in Google Drive, where all of the Leader Summit sessions are going to live. And then so that's like the slides and the Jam boards statically will be there. And then the recordings, I believe Brian said he's going to have them all up February 10th, I think he said, or 14th, somewhere in there, mid-Febs in a couple of weeks. It takes a while to edit them and get them up. But yes, you will definitely have access to all of those things.
And you said it's in the Google Drive.
Yeah. Dan, do you have access to that real quick?
I'm sorry, what is?
It's okay. Let me go find it here real quick while we wrap up, and I can drop it in the chat.
Well, are you going to send it to us in a separate, or I mean, will you inform us when it's all over? Because tomorrow I've got I have my book club on CAST, and I don't want to miss that. You know, we're going to be talking about racial relations. It's going to be really heavy.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll still be in communication with everyone, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to get all of the Leader Summit information.
As long as you just send it to all of the participants, you don't need to send it now.
Okay, great. Yeah. You'll see it. Definitely. We'll definitely provide a follow-up email about Leader Summit, links to all of the things, and a big thank you, and probably that one more survey link.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you everyone for joining us. Take that survey, and thanks for your open and vulnerable discussion today. Really appreciate it. And we appreciate you. And hopefully we'll see many of you tomorrow.
Mara, what time is Stepping Forward tomorrow?
Let's see, the sessions tomorrow, the beans is at 1 and the Stepping Forward is immediately after. So at 2.
Okay. Thank you.
EST, sorry, Eastern time, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Thank you again, everyone. Good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, for helping to moderate.
Yeah, no problem. See you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.